Okay, so I'm going to show you some headlines of some really alarming things that are taking place in the world. And these headlines are actually from a year ago. But we know we're in the middle of a pandemic. We know that COVID is a serious issue that is spreading all throughout the globe. We found that COVID is very contagious in many different ways. Fortunately, COVID, while horrible and has taken so many lives, has a very low death rate. Well, let me show you something that does not have a very low death rate, and it's called African swine fever. And it is a disease that attacks the nervous system of pigs and is essentially 100% deadly in baby pigs. In fact, in the last year, 1 billion, or a quarter of the world's pigs, have died due to this disease. It is specifically spread through China, which is the number one producer of pork in the world. The United States is second, and is killing these pigs left and right. And basically, if it gets in your herd, the only thing you have option to do is round up your pigs and kill them. And you can see this video or this picture here on the left. They've got these pigs round up that have this disease, and rather than let it spread because it's horribly contagious, they kill them and they get rid of these pigs. And so this leads to what today's lesson is about, and it's something called biosecurity. And what biosecurity is, of course, it's the security of living things, but it is the prevention of spread of disease amongst animals. Okay, so it's keeping diseases from getting into my pig pen. Now, this can look a lot of different ways, and there's more diseases than this is the worst disease. Fortunately, knock on wood, the African swine fever has not made it into the United States. It's made it across Asia, it's made it across Africa, but not into the United States. Another disease more common here is something called pseudorabies, and every pig that we have shown has blood drawn on them, and they have to have a negative test for pseudorabies. Pseudorabies, in the left here, you see a domesticated baby pig that is suffering from pseudorabies, is very weak, it can't get up, is soon going to die. But it's really spread horribly by these pigs on the right, and these are called feral hogs or wild boars. Okay, that spread this disease. They roam the United States, they roam Oklahoma, they spread this disease with them everywhere they go. Biosecurity looks at closing off or quarantining your herd to keep you from getting diseases in. But how are diseases spread? Well, they're spread a lot of different ways, not just through wild pigs, but through lots of different areas. So this is kind of a map of a swine farm, and we're showing you a bunch of different ways that diseases can be spread. So if you look in the top left corner here, feed and water. So we could have contaminated feed or water that spreads diseases in. In fact, we have a filtration system on all of the water that leads into our barns to make sure there's no diseases, but it also can be spread on our feed as well. In fact, the largest producer of pork in the United States, a company called Cargill, used to have all their feed made in China. They closed all their Chinese feed plants, feed mills, after the spread of this African swine fever because they didn't want it to get into their feed, ship it across the world here, and end up getting it to us in the animal feed. So that's not good. Equipment or bedding. Okay, think about if I drive a tractor outside of the farm and that disease gets caught on the mud or in manure and it gets on my tires or it gets in the bedding, that's an issue as well. We look at medicine. Medicine, of course, is not the problem, but the solution. We have to have good medicine on task to treat these animals. And a lot of times we connect it to our waters. We put it in a watering system so it goes through, and every single pig that takes a drink can get that. People that walk into your farm. Now, if I go visit I may not have the disease myself, but if I go visit a swine farm, walk through the barn, get poop on my boots that has that disease or on my clothes, and then go visit another farm down the road, I could be actively spreading this. So this could be stock show people, people that show pigs, vets that go around and visit a lot of other different sick animals, trade people or business people that are looking at doing that. Over here, we look at transportation system. Once again, we're worried about as we transport animals or different things, getting that disease in. One of the worst things right here that's hard to control: rodents, birds, flies, pets, other animals that come in and out with these diseases. Wild birds like to fly in and eat the pig feed, but in doing so, they spread diseases from outside. Airborne. So if one pig gets it in the barn and it spreads airborne to all the other pigs, of course, we see this in the year of COVID, right? If you're in a classroom with one of your classmates and they get COVID, then we worry about this issue of quarantining people. And then we look at other farm animals and products that we could have. All of these are things that we could have, and we have to control all these through biosecurity to make sure that I don't spread diseases. One way we do this in biosecurity is through quarantining animals. And so if I go buy a new pig from another herd, I'm going to quarantine that pig in a separate barn for a week or two just to make sure it doesn't have any diseases before putting it in. Boots. Boots are one of the worst ways of spreading. So how we maintain good biosecurity is a lot of times we put these plastic booties over. We walk through the barn. When we're done, we take them off, we throw them away, and we move on. Or we keep our normal shoes on and we step in a soap bath or an iodine bath. So as we walk through, we don't spread those diseases with our feet. You see how these people are dressed. A lot of times when you go into these swine barns, you'll shower before you come in. You'll put these coveralls on and you'll put a hairnet in. And this keeps you from spreading in diseases from outside. And then when you leave, you shower, you put your outside clothing on, and you leave. So this keeps very good biosecurity. A lot of times you'll see these stop signs outside. And so we don't just let people in and out. If I'm a truck driver and I'm dropping something off, maybe I stay in my truck and I don't get out. Some different facilities that we have to think about right here. Transportation of pigs. So I could do everything right, but then I load these pigs up to take them to the slaughterhouse. I have these open areas and I have to worry about maybe that truck being contaminated. Different management procedures, making sure I keep my pigs healthy. Land area used for pork production. So making sure my land is good and doesn't have any additional things on the property, maybe other animals or different things like that. Making sure my building and structures are all confined. Consumables or equipment, I want to wash it down, I want to sanitize it, and then I want to control once again the foot traffic, especially with my baby pigs. They are very weak. We learned about this in yesterday's lesson that a lot of times 1 to 2 of them will die per herd, and a lot of times they'll die from things like scours and dehydration. And that comes from diseases. And so I want to make sure I control that as that comes in. And so this is a very important thing when we think about biosecurity. How can I make sure that I do not have diseases spread in and out throughout?
So let's look at what we've got to do today. So in a second, you're going to log into Google Classroom and you're basically going to create your own swine operation and a plan for controlling biosecurity, being sure that you're not that farm that lets in pseudorabies or African swine fever, all sorts of other different diseases. So if you look at the instructions here on Google Classroom, it talks about 1 to 2 slides, and I really want you to put a lot of effort into these slides in terms of your graphic design. So you can use shapes and pictures off Google or whatever, but you're basically going to draw out online. You can do the lines and all that stuff. A design for what your swine farm will look like, and you need to have somewhere between about 5 to 7 different things labeled that you would do to help prevent diseases. So maybe we have a shower house where you have to shower in, right? Or maybe we have a station where you have to step in and clean off your shoes when you come in, as we talked about earlier in the video. And so you're going to map that on another slide. You're going to explain these actions a little better. So tell me why you set this or that up, okay? And then finally, I've included a couple links on here where you can look at some common swine diseases, and I want you to pick one of them and talk about that disease and how you can treat it, how you can prevent it, and just basically what that disease entails. So you're looking at about 3 or 4 slides, so it's not necessarily a lot. However, I do expect those slides to be really detailed, okay? Because, man, with pigs, pigs are definitely, when they're babies, the easiest of all the farm animals to kill over very easily. And if we don't have good biosecurity, if we don't work hard to keep our diseases out, then we're going to have a lot of problems. So anyway, that's your assignment for today. It's pretty simple. Tomorrow, you'll be back at the school farm, and I look forward to seeing you guys then. Have an awesome day.